Okay, everybody. Welcome to another live training here at One Source Personal Development Network. Every Tuesday, as you know, we do a live training and we try to keep the subjects, we try to keep them relatively interesting, but more pertaining to the area of personal development and how you can actually incorporate some of these, I guess, techniques and strategies into your One Source Personal Development business. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, if I could get my screen to change. Well, today it's going to be all about relationships. As you know, this is a critical area. It's one of the four key areas that we tend to focus on our sessions with our clients. We always focus on relationships, health, personal growth, and finances. But today we want to put the focus all on the area of relationships. Um, it's a very challenging area to work on with a client because there's so many different variations that you're going to see as we progress here. But what's my objective? My objective from this particular training, obviously, I'm not even qualified to teach you how to be a relationship therapist or to be an expert in the area of relationships. That's not what this session is all about. This session is just basically working with a client who, well, I suppose who just wants to open up, share some information, how to deal with it, how to progress, how to make that client, if they're comfortable sharing the information with you, how to make them feel as if, well, they're getting some value out of the session. So because it is a very challenging thing to be doing. So sometimes, people who don't want to talk, they're the ones that really want to talk. Now, I've found that primarily every client is different. There's some clients, they just want to stick to the dashboard. They only want to stick to the areas that they have in there. They're um they're not willing to open up and share a bunch of personal information with you, and that's fine. But I tend to find that as the relationship grows, as the level of trust increases, if and when they do open up and they want to start sharing more personal details with you, well, once they start, they find it hard to stop. They just share more and more. And that can be challenging. That's the whole purpose of why we want to devote a bit of time to it today. So, if you're going to go down that road, if you're going to start talking about personal information, personal details of somebody's relationships, if they're comfortable sharing, it's critical that you start out by making sure everyone knows the rules. Okay. And these are for you as your benefit as much as their benefit. So, and by the way, these are only the rules I use when I'm working with somebody. Feel free to add some because it's your session, your client. Feel free to add as many rules as you like. Um, Number one, and this should apply to everybody, how we work with individuals, how we work with our clients, it's a very non-intrusive form of consulting, even though it's all around the relationships and their health, their personal growth, and their finances. It's based on the dashboard. It's based on them sharing as little or as much information as they want. You never want to cross that line. You never want to come across as if you're trying to be nosy, if you're trying to get them to share something that they're not comfortable sharing. It's a very non intrusive approach to personal development. So it's also what I consider to be non directive coaching. Okay, what do I mean by non directive coaching? Well, it means exactly what it says there. Your role is to support the individual. Your role is to act as maybe a sounding board that when they're making, talking about certain things, whether it be their health or their relationships or the growth or the finances, you're taking it in and maybe you're relaying some, some of your thoughts back, but only in a manner that can be seen as, like I say, your sounding board for them to bounce ideas around with. It's not for you to tell them what they need to be doing. It's non-directive. You're not qualified. I'm not qualified to be telling these individuals what they need to do and what they don't need to be doing. We want to make sure that they come up with the solutions on their own. But again, we are there to support them. So this is a no-brainer. They need to understand this is a safe place. Okay. When I talk about being a safe place, judgment free. I'm not going to judge anybody. Any of the clients that I work with, I don't judge. Okay. It's not my nature to judge people. And I definitely isn't my role as a consultant to be judging anybody. So, and you need to make sure that they know that. And they will, as they get to work with you longer, as they open up more, they will be a level of trust that they will understand that. But sometimes that's going to have to be earned. But you need to make sure that you lay it out from the beginning, though, that if they are going to share information with you, it's a safe place. You're not going to judge anything that they're saying to you. It's also confidential. Okay, even though we're not licensed and we're not, um, held to any type of accreditation standards, common sense would tell you it's confidential. If somebody is sharing information with you, if somebody is telling you intimate details about their relationships or their finances or any of the areas that we're talking about here, obviously, it's confidential. You're never going to share with another client. And I'll tell you why I talk about this. There's certain individuals that I work with personally that are friends with other individuals. I also work with some individuals where they're couples, but they come to me separately. So you want to be very careful, and it can easily happen where you share information about something you learned in another session with, say, a friend, for an example. Like if you know two individuals are good friends, and if they say, if you're just talking to them and you're like, oh, how was the party last weekend, for an example? And if they're like, oh, what party? If you're like, oh, well, no, I was talking to so and so, and they had mentioned, I just assumed you were there. Obviously, that's just an extreme example, but you want to be very careful. Anything that is said in the session, no matter how small or how large, you don't share with anybody. Also, too, like I say, I work with some individuals where I'll see one like the man in the relationship or the female or vice versa or whatever the case may be, significant other. And you don't want to be judging based on the dashboard scores and sharing any information about what the other individual is up to or not up to, how they feel or how they don't feel. There's a fine line. You want to be very careful. You want to be very protective of all the information that we're gathering. And always remember, you, not the client, you also have the right to stay silent. You don't have to talk to anybody about something that you're not comfortable with. If somebody wants to start opening up, and they will, from time to time, depending on the individual, they will open up and they will share a lot of information with you. If you're not comfortable, if you don't feel as if you're qualified to deal with it, if you don't just feel comfortable with the topic, whatever the case may be, you're not obligated to. You're a personal development consultant. Okay. You're there to teach them the OneSource system of personal development. You're there to basically guide them along through their dashboard. You're there to support them, act as a sounding board, but you're not there to listen to all the intimate details about an argument that they had or some other situation that they found themselves in. Rather, it doesn't matter about finances, relationships, whatever the case may be. You have the right to, if you're not comfortable, don't do it. All right. Personally, I don't have an issue with it. I allow people to share as little or as much as they're comfortable sharing. And I make sure that they know that. Um, because I personally, I just don't have an issue. I'll talk to anybody about anything. Um, but again, if you're not comfortable, don't do it. Always remember, all right, and this is where you got to be careful because you can get caught up if you're working with individuals and week after week and they're sharing more and more. Always remember you're a consultant. Okay. You're not a marriage counselor. You're not a child therapist to talk about issues that they're having with their children. You're not any form of a therapist. Okay. You're a consultant or a coach or whatever phrase you're using, but you're not a therapist or any shape or form, or are you qualified to be doing that? Um, all you are is just basically providing a comfortable environment for somebody who you're working with. If they want to share some information, if they want you to listen, you're there for them. Okay. But again, you just want to be careful that they know that you're not advising them, that um, you're not a therapist at the end of the day. But there are a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities that what we do and what some psychotherapists or what some counselors do, or life coaching or whatever the case may be. But again, you have the right to to listen to whatever you want to listen to, and if you don't want to listen, don't listen. Just make it professional that you're not up for it, and they have the right to share as little or as much as they want. Um, so the thing about the relationships, why I want to focus on it, because it's different than the other areas. It's obviously very emotional, but there's so many different types of relationships that we all deal with. Um, and the thing about relationships, not only are there a variety of relationships that each and every individual will be dealing with, there's so many variations of those relationships. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of go through some of them to give you an idea, as far as just so you're aware. But for an example, the first one that usually comes to mind, not always, but the first one that usually comes to mind is a person's romantic relationship. Are they married? Are they in a relationship? Do they have a partner? Um, some do, some don't. Obviously, it depends on the situation. But you'll get a lot of people that will tell you a lot of details. They'll open up about relationships with their significant other, their children. Okay, you're gonna be working with a variety of individuals over a period of time. Some will have children, some won't have children, some will have multitude of children. Some parents will be in uniquely different situations. Some will be a stay-at-home mom. Some will be working two jobs and they're trying to figure out how to basically spend more time with their children. So you're going to get a wide variety of individuals from different, like I say, as far as when it comes to kids and relationships with, either partners or significant others or husbands, wives, whatever you want to refer to them as. You're going to have individuals who basically have relationships that they're dealing with some challenges with adult children, or you'll have adult children that are having challenges with their parents at this stage. Totally different type of relationship, obviously. I know I'm a father of three, and trust me, a very different relationship when they're 4, 5, and 6, and when they're 25, 26, 27. A totally different type of relationship that you have with those individuals, with your children. So again, and that's what makes it so unique. Like I say, there's so many different types of relationships and so many different variations of those relationships. Siblings, some people you work with will have siblings, some won't. Some will have amazing relationships with their siblings, others won't. Um, One that might seem silly to some people, but the relationship with their pets. I myself, I love animals. I consider myself a dog person. I love dogs. I love all animals, though. Um, some people take it to the extreme, and that's okay. Um, I, I'm not going to judge somebody who has a relationship with a dog or a cat or whatever the case may be. That some people might look at as over the top. It's not for me to judge. Also, too, you want to be aware if you're not an animal lover, if you're not in the pets, that's fine. But you just got to be careful when people start opening up and sharing information about their pets, because to some people they have very strong, loving, lasting, meaningful relationships with those pets. Um, Obviously, different social groups. Some people have very strong relationships with their creator. Some people are atheists. It doesn't make a difference. I'm only trying to talk about all these things so you can see the wide variety of relationships that you could put yourself in a situation to be talking to people about. Um, Relationships at the office, at the workplace. Some people, especially with the different pandemic that's going on and everything else right now, some people will go ahead and they'll be uh, having relationships. Sorry, I'm just going to. Some people will be having relationships primarily that they're being put in situations at work where they're not comfortable with. Some people will be having different challenges in the workplace, dealing with certain types of personalities. It varies from person to person, but again, all types of relationships that you're going to be dealing with. But then just generally everybody, from your neighbors to the person who serves you the coffee to the guy who cuts you off in traffic, the person you run into on the street, it doesn't make a difference. There's so many different relationships that you're going to be dealing with. And again, so many different variations. So you want to be prepared, I suppose is the best way to put it, prepared to deal with all these variations. And you want to basically put yourself in a position that if you choose to go down that road and start talking to people in more detail about their relationships, that you're doing it in the proper manner. So, some things to consider, because as we've already identified, there's so many different variations. Some things to keep in mind when talking to people on a one-to-one about different relationship issues or challenges. First, what type of personality type are we dealing with? Okay, because depending on the personality type, there's going to be very different reactions, different feelings, a lot of different emotions to different situations. Are you dealing with an introvert or are you dealing with an extrovert? Okay. When you're talking to either or an introvert, for an example, but say the individual that they're talking about, whether it be a spouse or a child or a friend or a sibling or a parent, what's the personality type of that individual? Is that person an extrovert? And there's no right or wrong, obviously. But again, as you learn more about these different types of relationships, you're gonna get a better understanding of why maybe somebody acts in one situation, responds in one situation, completely different than a person in another in the exact same situation will act completely different. So just things to, again, personality types are really important. Like for an example, if if you're dealing with an introvert, obviously they want respect, but it's you have to respect their need for privacy. Privacy is very important to that individual. They never usually You don't want to put them in an situation in public. Um, they want to observe things first in new situations. Give them time to think. Don't try not to interrupt them. All these things here, they all apply to introverts. But just to be aware, obviously, and you'll learn this in the training as well if you don't already know it. You can be part introvert, part extrovert. The clients that you're dealing with, the people that they're dealing with could be a variation of the two. Um, but similar, and an extrovert though, well, they want respect as well, but they want respect for their independence. You want to compliment them in the company of others, where maybe an introvert, they don't want to get compliments in public. They don't want to be in the limelight any way, shape, or form. But again, I would really recommend that as you progress, as you start, going on with down the career path here with one source, that you make sure that you start to really get comfortable learning the different types of personality types. Invest in it, study it. Um, it will come to serve you, and plus it'll help you so much in your own relationships. Um, the other things to take into consideration: religion. You want to be very careful. Obviously, you want to be careful in every situation when you're dealing with relationships. But for an example, if just for an example, if you're an atheist and you're talking to, say, a devout Catholic or a Muslim, well, you want to be very considerate of expressing your views. Okay. You don't want to be talking, about certain things that could be considered taboo in their religion. Again, common sense, but things to take into consideration. This one, I don't know your feelings on it. I know, but I feel men and women process things very different. Not all men process things the same. Not all women process things the same, obviously. But as a whole, the percentage of men versus the percentage of women out there will process things very differently. So again, be aware of it. Um, what type of couple are you dealing with? Are you dealing with a gay couple? Are you dealing with a bi couple? Are you dealing with a straight couple, heterosexual? You just want to take all of these things into consideration, and never assume anything. You could be talking to somebody for a period of time, and they could be telling you about their partner, and then all of a sudden it just clicks with you. Oh, that's the same sex. Just That's fine, but you just want to be careful that you don't act shocked, you don't act surprised. Because again, it's there is no problem with any of it. But again, you just want to be careful, because if you're in that position, you could offend somebody. Um, while we're talking about that, you want to get very comfortable with the pronouns. I would really encourage you to spend a bit of time. Make sure, if you're not familiar with them already, as far as what pronouns people are using. I know from the work that I'm doing with generation, very, very big topic right now. And people take it extremely personal, and rightfully so. But again, get comfortable with it. Learn them, learn when to use them. Um, Again, you could easily offend somebody with something as simple as referring to them as the wrong pronoun. Generations. You know, I myself, I belong to the baby boomers. Okay, I'm an older guy. Um, you know, I consider myself a relatively open-minded individual. But again, chances are I have very different views than somebody say from, you know, a millennial or a Gen Z or Z, depending on what part of the world you're in. But again, or Generation X. Um, every generation is going to be different. They're going to process things different. They have different conditioning, and all of that is fine. But again, you want to keep these things in mind when you're dealing with a variety of different people. We're all going to have different points of view. We're all going to process things differently. We're all going to go ahead and have a lot of different conditioning, which is ultimately is going to shape our view of the world. So again, you want to be very open-minded. And even if you don't agree, you never want to express it. The session is always about that individual and the situation that they're in. It's not about you. It's not about your beliefs. It's not about your view of the world. It's about that individual. Always remember that. Um, and then even things that are, again, this is me maybe showing my age, but I find is much more common these days. Things like open relationships. I I I shouldn't say it, but I am an older guy. It's I'm not saying they didn't exist, years ago. Obviously they did, but it just seems a lot more common now, and that's fine. I don't judge. But again, be prepared for things like this. Um, but the one thing you want to get very, very, I guess, informed about and very educated on is the individuals. We all know about the 6 core needs. We've talked about this in a few sessions now, and I'm going to continue to talk about it with you. The reason being, it's critical. It's critical to the point where if you can learn to really identify out of the 6 core needs, which ones you value the most, the top one, the top two, the top three, maybe, and start trying to identify it in others, it'll serve you very well in dealing with different relationships. Because again, depending on which of the core needs that an individual basically values above the others, well, I can guarantee you that's going to have a big impact on the relationships and how they interact with people and things that they do. Like, for an example, if your number one core value is a level of certainty and you're dating somebody who their core value is variety, well, opposites attract and you could get on exceptionally well. But be aware of that they're going to have a very different view of the world as you do, and vice versa. But again, by just getting very comfortable with identifying the 6 core needs that we all have, and the level of which people value them, that could be extremely powerful, extremely useful tool when dealing with different relationships. But challenges challenges are always going to be there in any relationship, but they're a good thing. Why are they a good thing? Well, common sense would tell you, in my opinion, that they're a good thing because they give you an opportunity to grow, okay, to expand. Because you know as well as I do, if you can work through a challenge, what's going to happen is you're going to come out the other side stronger. So a challenge in a relationship is a positive thing. It all depends on your approach and how you deal with that particular challenge. So, what are some of the challenges that are going to come up? Um, let's talk about sex, okay? As the slide says. Um, this one can be challenging for a number of reasons. First off, you could be the type of individual who's you're not comfortable talking about sex with somebody. Um, Truthfully, it doesn't bother me any way, shape, or form, but I'm very, very cautious, always very cautious. One thing I'll give advice on: never bring up the subject yourself. Let them approach you. If they're having, if they're talking about a relationship with their partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, significant other, as I keep saying, and the subject of sex comes up, that's fine. Let them bring it up. What you don't want to do, remember, it's non-intrusive. You don't want to cross that line and just start asking questions. It can be very inappropriate. But if they bring up the subject and they're comfortable obviously talking about it, and you're comfortable talking about it, feel free. I have quite a few clients that will be, they're an open book. They'll tell me anything, and they'll just just throw it out there, and it's like, okay, let's address it. Let's talk about it. No problem. Um, Dealing with situations that come up, like if somebody is cheating, and don't always just assume it's going to be the man cheating. I'm hoping you don't assume that, but um, it's a lot of times it's the man. A lot of times it could be the woman. A lot of times it could be both of them. A lot of times I work with a client, and they'll open up to me and they'll tell me that they're having an affair, or they're cheating, or they're dating somebody, but yet they're doing, X, Y, and Z on the side. Don't be shocked. Don't judge. It's not your role to go ahead and, just because of how you feel inside, based on your morals, to start preaching to anybody. You're there to support that individual. And unless they tell you that, it involves, something illegal, or, with, whatever the case may be, child abuse or anything like that, don't be shocked and don't judge. If it's between two consenting adults, I'm not saying that you have to, pat them on the back and slap them high five or anything like that. But one thing you never want to do is come across as being judgmental, based on your own standards or your own morals. You want to, again, create that comfortable environment where it's a judgment free zone. They can share anything with you. So, as an example, if somebody was to be talking about, maybe they think that their spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case may be, partner, is cheating on them, in their own words, would it be a good idea to say something like, relationships are all about trust. If you have to start playing detective, it's time to move on. What's wrong with that statement based on our scenario here? Well, to me, it may be well meant. It's well meant advice, but I just think it's wrong. But why is it wrong? You're voicing your belief, your morals, and you're telling them, well, maybe it's time to move on. You're directing them. Remember, non-directive coaching. You can ask them probing questions. You can go ahead and act as a sounding board for them if they're bouncing ideas around. If they come right out and they ask you, you can say, well, look, you can phrase it in such a way that, I personally, this is my own personal belief, you're a totally different individual than I am. But to me, trust is very important. If I personally, if I personally was in that situation, this is possibly how I would consider handling it. But even at that, I wouldn't be overly keen to do anything like that, because it's always about that person. So, but again, just to keep in mind, don't be so quick, especially when talking relationships. And the truth of it is, You don't know who's doing what. You don't know if that person's really cheating. You don't know both sides of the story. You don't know what's happened leading up to that. You know a small portion of the story. So I would never advise to make a statement anything remotely close to that. Um, Other challenges when it comes to relationships, the flip side, people who aren't in a relationship, loneliness, it's an epidemic right now. And you want to be very, I guess, open to allowing people to talk about it. And be careful with when you don't be so quick to give advice and just say, well, just get out there, go out there and meet people. You know, sometimes it's not that easy. Again, non-directive. Let them talk, let them share. You can rephrase things back to them that they've said to you, but be careful when throwing out advice and trying to direct somebody and trying to move them along in the direction or the path that you want them to go down. The only thing you want to be careful of, though, and when I think it is okay to ask questions, and when it is okay to maybe cross that line, is when they're saying things that where it sounds like, well, maybe they're really struggling here. Maybe they need some help. Maybe they're having suicidal thoughts, or they're saying things that just don't sit right with you. As far as there's no harm in just asking somebody flat out, are you suicidal? If they're dropping those little hints. I spent a couple years working with I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, with an organization called the Samaritans. And it was based all around suicide, bereavement, and suicide prevention, um, and supporting individuals that were having a difficult time with either any mental health issues or anything else. But we were trained that if anybody gave any indication at all that they were suicidal, just flat out ask them. Um, and I would suggest you do the same here. If you're working with a client and you get the impression that there's something seriously not right here, they're talking about how depressed they are, they're talking about how they can't take it anymore, how they just can't keep living like this, they can't go on. If you're picking up that vibe, ask them. Also too, with situations like if it's okay to cross the line, if, say for an example, there you suspect domestic violence is going on. If you're talking to somebody and they're talking about, well, he does this or she does this, or she's so aggressive, he's so aggressive, or it gets physical, or any indication at all, ask them. Is there any type of physical abuse that's going on in the household? Is there violence going on? Some suggestions, and they're only suggestions, do's and don'ts. You want to make sure you check in with them. Make sure if you have confirmed it, express concern. Let them know. Look, I'm really concerned about this. Um, Listen and just tell them repeatedly over and over again. Listen, it's not your fault. Don't put their problems on you. It's not your fault. Offer any resources that you feel could be helpful to them. Take a bit of time, do some research, look into some charities, some organizations, um, like the Samaritans, for an example, that I was just talking about. There's a ton of different organizations out there. But if you suspect somebody is being abused in any way, shape, or form, offer them some assistance. Um, but ultimately, and this is a challenging one, you have to support their decision. You should not because you don't know what's really going on. You can try to go ahead and offer as much assistance to that individual. You can try to go ahead and you can try to, you know, direct them. And when it comes to physical violence, you can feel free to direct them. But ultimately, whatever they decide to do, it's their decision. Things you shouldn't do, you shouldn't wait for them to approach you if you suspect there's a problem. Never, obviously, you're not going to judge or blame them any way, shape, or form. You're not going to make the decision for them. You're not going to be like, I need you to go into your bedroom right now, pack a bag, and I want you out of that house in the next 15 minutes. You leave tonight. That's not your role to be doing that. Um, you can support them. You can. This one says you shouldn't give advice. In this case, I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think I would cross the line. I would give advice, but that's all you're doing. You're giving advice. It's up to them to take it or to leave it. And obviously, you're not going to place conditions. Saying, "Well, look, I'm not going to be working with you anymore. I can't deal with this. If you're not going to leave them tonight, him, her, them, tonight, that's it. I can't work with you anymore." You're not going to put conditions on your support. They need to know you're going to be for them regardless of the situation, regardless of their decision, what they're going to do. Some things to be cautious of, some questions that they can ask you, because a lot of times, people are looking for direction and they're going to flat out ask you, what to do. You want to be careful of that. For an example, they could ask you something about, you know, how do I know when it's time to end a relationship? Well, that's different with everybody. Um, you can you can answer it in a way where you rephrase it back to them, and you can say, "Well, truthfully, I'm not sure. You tell me, what do you think? When do you think is the right time to end the relationship?" Or they could say something as an example, he or she, I don't think they're really over the ex. Should I continue to date this person? Well, again, you really don't know the situation there. You really shouldn't be giving advice telling somebody to end a relationship, to leave a relationship, when you know a small fraction of what's really going on there. And it might feel as if you really know what's going on because they've opened up and they've shared all these things with you. But ultimately, it has to be their decision. It's non directive. You are not there to tell them what to do, but a lot of people will want you to. They will ask you questions. They will go ahead and they'll, do their best to avoid making that decision. They want somebody else to take ownership of making that decision. Be careful for that. You can, however, ask probing questions. Probing questions are very powerful. Like, just asking questions, like I said to you earlier. Well, what do you think you should do? When do you think would be the right time to leave? You know, what do you think you should do in this particular situation? How do you feel about X? Um, but again, and one question I used to use all the time when I was telling you I worked with the the Samaritans. I had volunteered for them for a couple years. It was very non-directive. We weren't allowed to ever tell the person what to do. But what I would do is I would go ahead and I would say things like, you know, well, what's in your life right now that's worth living for? And they would say things right away like nothing. There's nothing good in my life right now. And I would follow up and I'd say, well, if there was something, what would it be? Just by rephrasing it that small little bit, you'd be surprised. People changed their focus, they changed their view, and they would say something like, "Oh, well, I suppose it's my dog, or it's, um, my grandson, or it's whatever the case may be." But that opens it up, it changes their focus, and you do it by asking questions. You can do the same here. Or another good thing to do, if you don't want to give advice, you don't want to direct them, but there's nothing wrong with giving a quote if it applies. And let me tell you an example. If somebody's talking about, you know, they have low self-esteem or depression or whatever, you could say, this is only an example, but well, you know what Sigmund Freud says about that. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, make sure that you're not, in fact, just surrounded by jerks. You're not telling them what to do. You're just taking an appropriate quote and applying it at the right time. You're not telling them what to do. You're just telling them what Sigmund Freud said to do. But again, you want to be careful with that, and that's a skill. But it is worth time spending. I myself, I'm real big on quotes. You'll know that if you come to these trainings on a regular basis. I love to throw quotes out there. But they're a powerful way to go ahead in a session to kind of indirectly get a point across without you being the person who's telling them what they need to do. Or simple, if they're keep finding themselves in the same situation. You know what Albert Einstein says, what insanity is: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Or, sometimes the fastest way to start doing something that does work is to simply stop doing something that doesn't. All these quotes, that are so readily available, you know, start taking a bit of time, finding some that you really enjoy, that you really like, and that you really agree with. And when the opportunity presents itself, if you're comfortable, use it. Um, there's another one. So it's important to know you don't need to know everything, guys. Again, you're a personal development consultant. You're not a psychotherapist. You're not, a doctor. You're not a, you know, professional counselor, or whatever the case may be. My suggestion is all you need to do is know where to find the information. Just like I said about the quotes, there's a ton of different resources out there that are available to you that you can recommend or you can quote from. Like, always a good idea to recommend a good book. If somebody is having relationships problems in whatever area, whether it be with their child, whether it be with their parent, whether it be with a friend, whether it be, with, a lover, a spouse, a partner, whatever the case may be, start researching, start reading, start making good recommendations. That's the key. Good recommendations. Don't just throw any book out there that you haven't even read, or you haven't even gotten past the first 10 pages on, and recommending it to people. But if you read a book, or Audible, as you know, I'm a big fan of Audible. I listen to Audible all the time. If you find something that's useful, recommend it in the appropriate situation. Like, for an example, you would have heard me talk about this, and I'm going to continue to talk about this. I'm actually going to be doing a review over the next couple of weeks on a session about relationship breakthrough. Chloe Mendane, written with Anthony Robbins. Really, really powerful book, in my opinion. And I would have no problem recommending this book to somebody who's having problems, having challenges in a relationship. So if you're comfortable with it, if you really truly believe in it, recommend it. Another really good one, and this is all about just understanding the way your own brain works, especially when managing relationships with yourself and with others, is the chimp paradox. Um, Again, I think I have talked about this on a number of occasions before. Don't know, I can't remember if I ever did a proper review of it. I'm going to go back and check that. And if I haven't, I'm going to do one because it is a really great book. But an overview, just so you know, sorry, I just have to move something on my screen here. But it's all about basically 7 steps. It talks about first, understanding your inner mind, your yourself and your emotions. And then it goes on to, how to interact and how everything interacts with others and relationships. Talks about communication, um, stress management and managing your environment, maintaining your level of health. Talks about success and happiness, but it's got steps in all of it. But again, it's all a basic understanding of your relationship with yourself, understanding on how your own mind works, so you're more aware and you can take steps to manage different portions and different reactions and different um, issues and challenges that you're having around, specifically around relationships. Um, when I definitely have done a review on this, and you've heard me talk about it many times, the High Five Habit. Really great book, I believe. Really great book about managing your relationship with yourself and improving your relationship with yourself. Because again, remember what we always say, guys, the most important relationship that you're ever going to have is that relationship with yourself. So have a good relationship with yourself, you'll have a good relationship with others. The the, the High Five Habit is a really powerful book for improving your relationship with yourself. But I'm going to leave you with this. Really important when you're working with others, never ever judge anyone you don't know. It's never, I'm sorry, read it wrong. Never ever judge anyone. That's the key right there. You don't know their story and what's really going on. And that's really important to keep in mind when you're talking to others and they're sharing their relationship challenges with you about other people. You really don't know what's going on there. All you can do is support that individual, act as a sounding board, and do your best. So, other than that, as always, really want to say thanks for joining tonight. Really appreciate it. Questions, comments, concerns, I'll be around for the next half hour or so. Feel free to drop me a message on WhatsApp, give me a call, drop me an email. I'm happy to support you. Till then, see you next Tuesday. Appreciate it, guys. Really appreciate everybody.